The Parker family estate looked exactly as I remembered it. A sprawling Georgian mansion set against manicured lawns, every brick and window screaming old money and older pride. I sat in my car, watching the sun set behind the house where I'd grown up, where I'd learned that the Parker name meant everything, and where 5 years ago they told me I was nothing without it. I'm Sophia Parker, though my family would argue I lost the right to that name the day I walked away from Parker Industries to build something of my own. Now I was back, not as the prodigal daughter seeking forgiveness, but as their last chance at survival. Though they didn't know that part yet. The family meeting had been called urgently. Parker Industries, the technology empire my grandfather built from nothing, was facing bankruptcy. Years of mismanagement by my Uncle George and cousin Peter had finally caught up with them. They needed investors, fast. What they didn't know was that I already owned 40% of their company through various shell corporations. And tonight I'd decide their fate. The front door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, elegant as always in her designer dress, her disapproval evident in every line of her face. "You're late," she said by way of greeting. "Hello to you too, Mom." I stepped past her into the marble foyer, my heels clicking against the floor. The sound echoed through the house like an intruder's footsteps. The great room was packed with family members, uncles, aunts, cousins, all gathered for the emergency meeting. Conversations hushed as I entered. My cousin Peter, now CEO of Parker Industries, stood by the fireplace in an expensive suit that couldn't hide his nervous fidgeting. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," Uncle George's voice boomed across the room. The great independent businesswoman herself. I smiled tightly. If he only knew that my little consulting business was actually Nova Investments, the corporation they were desperately hoping would save them. "Uncle George," I nodded, still running the company into the ground. His face reddened. "How dare you? You know nothing about running a real business. You abandoned your responsibilities, your family legacy." I chose my own path. I cut him off. Something this family never understood. My father stepped forward, his expression stern. "Sophia, we didn't invite you here to rehash old arguments. We're facing a serious situation. The company's in trouble," I stated simply. "You need investors." Peter shifted uncomfortably. "We have interested parties. Nova Investments has made an offer." "Nova?" I raised an eyebrow, enjoying their ignorance. "The same company that's been buying up your competitors." "They see our potential," Uncle George insisted, unlike some people who turned their backs on their birthright. I thought about the documents in my briefcase, proof of years of mismanagement, failed projects, and questionable decisions that had brought Parker Industries to its knees. "Birthright?" I laughed. "Is that what you call running grandfather's company into bankruptcy?" The room erupted in angry mutters. My mother touched my arm in warning. "Sophia, please, this isn't helping." "No, let her speak." Uncle George stepped closer, his face twisted with rage. "Let her tell us how she knows better than everyone else. How her tiny consulting firm makes her an expert on our business." I met his gaze steadily. "I know enough to see that Parker Industries is 3 months away from complete collapse. Your tech division is bleeding money, your new product line is stalled, and your stock price is about to plummet." "How do you know about the product line?" Peter demanded. "That information wasn't public." I smiled. "I make it my business to know things, cousin. Just like I know about the failed Singapore expansion you tried to hide from the board." Uncle George stepped forward, looming over me. "You're nothing without the family name," he roared. "Nothing. You think your little success story impresses anyone? Leave and never come back." The room fell silent. Even my father, who had always tried to play peacemaker, said nothing. "George," my mother started, but he cut her off. "No, Catherine, she needs to hear this. 5 years ago, she walked away from everything we built. Everything her grandfather sacrificed for. She's not a Parker anymore." I opened my briefcase slowly, pulling out a single document. "Actually, Uncle George, I think you'll find I'm more of a Parker than you realize." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said calmly, "that while you were busy running this company into the ground, I was building something better, something worthy of grandfather's legacy." Peter snatched the paper from my hand, his face going pale as he read. This can't be right." "What is it?" Uncle George demanded. "These are stock purchase records," Peter whispered. "From Nova Investments. They've been buying shares through shell companies for years." So, my uncle's voice held a note of uncertainty now. The shell companies. Peter looked up at me, realization dawning in his eyes. They all trace back to you. The room erupted in chaos. My mother gasped. My father stepped forward, reaching for the document. Uncle George's face turned an alarming shade of purple. That's impossible, he sputtered. You couldn't afford, you don't have the resources. I've owned 40% of Parker Industries for the past 2 years, I said quietly. Every board meeting, every major decision. I've been there. Watching. Learning exactly how badly you've mismanaged my grandfather's legacy. Lays. Uncle George lunched for me, but my father held him back. It's true, Peter confirmed, still reading. She's been buying shares since she left, small amounts at first, then larger blocks as our stock price fell. Through Nova Investments, I added. The company you're so desperate to take money from. Understanding rippled through the room. My cousins whispered among themselves. My aunts clutched their pearls in shock. Uncle George had collapsed into a chair, his bluster gone. Why? My father asked quietly. Why go to all this trouble? Because you never understood what the Parker name really meant, I replied. Grandfather built this company from nothing. He took risks, innovated, put everything on the line. But you? I looked at Uncle George. You just rode his coattails, claiming birthright while running his dream into the ground. So this is revenge? My mother asked. I shook my head. No, Mom, this is business. Tomorrow, Nova Investments will make its final offer to buy controlling interest in Parker Industries. You can accept, or you can watch the company collapse when I sell my shares. You wouldn't. Uncle George found his voice. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number on speaker. Marcus, begin phase 2. Yes, Ms. Parker. Releasing the Singapore reports to the press now. Stock should begin dropping within the hour. Uncle George lunged for my phone, but I stepped back smoothly. Those reports are sealed. We're sealed, I corrected. Amazing what you can access when you own 40% of a company. As if on cue, phones began buzzing around the room. Family members pulled them out, gasping at news alerts about Parker Industries' failed expansion and hidden losses. You'll destroy us, Peter whispered. No, cousin. You did that yourselves. I'm offering salvation, at a price. What price? My father asked. I smiled, thinking of all the times they dismissed my ideas, belittled my ambitions, told me I was nothing without the family name. Complete control, I said simply. Nova Investments will assume majority ownership. A new board will be appointed, and Uncle George and Peter will resign, effective immediately. You can't do this, Uncle George shouted, finding his fury again. I won't let you. Let me? I cut him off. You seem to be forgetting something, Uncle. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you how this ends. The silence that followed my announcement was deafening. Outside the grand windows of our family estate, darkness had fallen, but inside harsh truths were coming to light. My uncle's face had lost all color. My cousin Peter looked physically ill, and the rest of the family shifted uncomfortably, watching their carefully constructed world crumble. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, my chief operating officer at Nova. Stocks down 12% and falling. News outlets are picking up the Singapore story. Thank you, Marcus. I kept the phone on speaker, letting them hear every word. Begin contacting major shareholders. They should know there's a way to save their investment if the board accepts Nova's offer. Uncle George surged to his feet. You're destroying your own family's company. No, I corrected calmly. I'm saving it. From you. My father stepped forward, his face a mask of confusion and dawning respect. All this time, Nova Investments was you? I nodded. Every acquisition, every merger, every success they'd been talking about in the financial press. That was all me. The daughter you thought couldn't handle real business. But how? Peter demanded. Where did you get the capital to? Remember grandfather's trust? I smiled at the memory. The one you all laughed at me for accepting instead of company shares? He left me $5 million with one condition, that I use it to build something of my own. Understanding dawned in my father's eyes. The old man knew. He knew exactly what would happen to his company under your leadership, I confirmed, looking at Uncle George. He saw how you valued the Parker name more than Parker innovation, so he made sure at least one of us would carry on his real legacy. My mother touched my arm. Darling, surely we can discuss this as a family. Find some compromise. Like the compromise you offered me 5 years ago. I pulled away from her touch. When you told me I had to accept a token position under Uncle George or leave with nothing. That was different, she protested weakly. You're right, it was. Then you had all the power. Now, I gestured to my phone as another stock alert chimed. Now the positions are reversed. Peter grabbed his own phone, frantically scrolling. 15% drop. The shareholders are panicking. They should be, I said. Once they see the full Singapore report, the stock will be worthless by morning. Unless we accept Nova's offer, my father finished quietly. I pulled out another document from my briefcase, the final acquisition offer. Complete control of Parker Industries, new board, new management, new direction. The Parker name stays, but the old guard goes. Uncle George slammed his fist on the mahogany table. I won't let you steal my company. Your company? I laughed. The same company you drove into the ground with failed expansions and outdated technology. The company you used as your personal piggy bank while letting innovation stagnate. I turned to address the whole room. Did any of you know that Parker Industries hasn't released a truly new product in 3 years? That our R&D department has been gutted to fund Uncle George's vanity projects? That our best engineers have been leaving in droves? Murmurs of concern rippled through the family. They hadn't known, or hadn't wanted to know. The Singapore expansion was supposed to fix everything, Peter said desperately. If you just give us more time. Time? I pulled up more documents on my tablet, projecting them onto the room's large screen. Here's the real Singapore numbers. Not the ones you showed the board. The project is a disaster. You've lost $500 million trying to hide it. Gasps filled the room as the true figures appeared. My aunts clutched their pearls, my cousins whispered frantically among themselves, and Uncle George looked like a man watching his world burn. You've been spying on us, he accused, breaking into private company records. I own 40% of the company, I reminded him. Those records belong to me as much as you. More, actually, since I pay for my shares instead of inheriting them. My father picked up the acquisition offer, reading carefully. These terms. They're actually quite fair. More than fair, I agreed. Nova will absorb all debt. No layoffs below senior management. The Parker name stays on the building. All I want is control. All you want is revenge, Uncle George spat. I met his gaze steadily. If I wanted revenge, I'd let the company collapse. Let everyone see how the mighty Parkers destroyed their own legacy. This is mercy. Peter grabbed the papers from my father's hands, scanning frantically. What happens to us? The family? You'll retain minimal shares, non-voting stock. Enough to keep you comfortable, but not enough to interfere. I smiled. Consider it severance for years of mismanagement. And if we refuse? Uncle George's voice was dangerous. I shrugged. Then I sell my shares at market open. Once they're public, every vulture fund in the country will know Parker Industries is vulnerable. They won't be as generous as I'm being. As if to emphasize my point, phones around the room chimed with more stock alerts. The price was falling faster now as news of the Singapore disaster spread. My mother tried one last time. Sophia, please. We're family. Family? I laughed bitterly. Was it family when you told me I'd never succeed without the Parker name? When you backed Uncle George as he drove this company into the ground? When you watched silently as everything grandfather built was wasted on vanity and pride? The room fell silent. Even Uncle George had no response. The Parker name means something, I continued, my voice softer now. Not because of its history, but because of what grandfather created. He built this company on innovation, on taking risks, on seeing the future before anyone else. That's the legacy I'm trying to save. My father stepped forward. As chairman of the board, I move we vote on Nova's offer. Robert, Uncle George protested. You can't. Enough, George. My father's voice was firm. Look at the numbers. Look at what you've done to this company. Sophie's offering us a chance to save what's left. One by one, family members nodded. Even Peter, seeing the writing on the wall, slumped in defeat. The vote was quick and unanimous. Within hours, lawyers had been called, papers signed, and Parker Industries officially became a subsidiary of Nova Investments. As shell-shocked family members filed out, Uncle George lingered. "You think you've won," he said bitterly, "but you'll never be the Parker he was." I smiled, thinking of my grandfather's last words to me, his faith in what I could build. "You're right, Uncle George. I'll be better." Because I understood what he really built this company on: innovation, not inheritance; vision, not vanity; the future, not the past. 1 year later, I stood in my office at the newly renovated Parker Industries headquarters. Under Nova's leadership, the company had transformed. New products were in development, talented engineers were returning, and our stock price had tripled. Uncle George had retired to Florida, nursing his wounded pride with his severance package. Peter had surprised everyone by accepting a lower position in R&D, where he was actually showing promise now that the pressure of leadership was gone. My parents tried repeatedly to reconcile, suddenly proud of their successful daughter. But their dinner invitations went unanswered. I was too busy building something they had never believed possible. A company that valued innovation over inheritance. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. A young engineer stood there, clutching a prototype. "Miss Parker, I have some ideas for the new quantum processor." I smiled, remembering how my own ideas had been dismissed years ago. "Come in, tell me everything." As she excitedly outlined her vision, I felt a deep satisfaction. This was why I built Nova, why I fought so hard for control of Parker Industries. Not to prove my family wrong, but to prove my grandfather right. My phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. "The family misses you. The Parker name needs to stay united." I looked around my office at the new Parker Industries logo, at the innovative projects in development, at the future we were building. "The Parker name is doing just fine," I texted back. "Better than ever, actually. Grandfather would be proud." Then I turned back to the young engineer and her ideas. Because that's what the Parker name really meant. Not preserving the past, but building the future. Sometimes you have to lose the family you were born into to honor the legacy you were meant to build. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't taking over the family business. It's showing them what that business could have been all along. As for me, I kept my grandfather's trust document framed on my wall. Not to remember the money he left me, but to remember his real gift, the belief that I could build something greater than my family's expectations. And that's a legacy even the Parker name couldn't buy.